Hey folks, Steve Vai here, and I want to say congratulations to all the Brotherhood members, Brotherhood of the Guitar, and I think it's a wonderful thing because the guitar is such a beautiful instrument and has the potential to be a good friend for your whole life, and a great instrument of expression. When I think back to when I was young, and how the guitar entered my life and what it meant. I remember the first time I saw somebody play the guitar, I was 5 years old, and that person was about 7 or 8. But when somebody's 8 and you're 5, they're like gods, especially if they have a guitar. And I remember instinctively, the moment I saw the guitar, understanding what it was and how it functioned and its potential. It was just one of those openings, and it was just so beautiful. I could remember time standing still. You know, it was one of those moments of clarity where I can recall all these various aspects of that moment. You know, the color of the way the room smelled, the color of the chairs, and what the kid was wearing. But the exciting thing was the guitar itself. And like I say, I instinctively understood what it was, how it worked, what it sounded like, and potentially what it could do. I knew it was an infinite instrument of expression. And I just dreamt about it for many years. I always saw it as something out of my reach. I don't know if maybe it was you know, insecurity issues or inferiority complex, but it was always this like unreachable, beautiful thing. And every time I'd see a guitar, I would get excited. And then one day I was 12 and I was at my friend's house, and he had a guitar on the wall that he got from like a Sears catalog that his mother bought him. And I would just go over his house to see the guitar. And I said, "What, you're not playing this thing?" And he said, "I don't want to play it. I'll sell it to you for $5. And that was it for me. I kept it a secret, and I played the guitar, and I was fortunate enough that Joe Satriani lived in my town, and he was about 15 when I was 12, and he was always great. Always inspired. Everything that ever came out of Joe's fingers sounded like music, and that had a big impression on me. So I was a teenager in the 70s, and I listened to all this great 70s progressive music and all those great guitar players like Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore, Brian May. And then I got into all these different styles, was listening to Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin and Joe Pass, everything. If it had a guitar, I was interested in it. When I think back of what I was thinking when I was a young practicing musician, I liked all different styles. I liked the blues, and I mention this because maybe it could resonate with some of you. I liked all styles, and I always felt, I actually never thought I was very good. As a matter of fact, I always thought that everybody was better than me. And that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't follow a particular style. I mean, I liked the blues, I liked classical, I liked jazz, but every blues guitar player just seemed so so good that I never thought that I could possibly be as good, you know. And I enjoyed listening to them, so I thought, well, I don't want to play like that. I can enjoy them. Why try to play like them? I never could. So it was interesting how that innocent kind of mentality was the impetus for me to find and develop my own style. Because the thing that excited me the most, and this is something that I can track back to the very instant that I saw a guitar being played for the first time and understood what music was, which actually happened before that. To this very day, there's the most important thing for me, or I should say the absolute important thing, was hearing an idea in my head or thinking of something musically and picking up the guitar and not being able to play it, but then working on it, and then all of a sudden you can do it. And that was such a fulfilling thing to do. It became addictive. I sat and played the guitar all day, and people say, "Oh, you practice so much." I didn't miss anything because that was my juice. Now, you don't have to be a guitar virtuoso to enjoy the guitar, to play the guitar, to be very successful with it, and to find your own voice. You know, the way I play just happens to be the thing that I moved towards, because that was the most exciting thing to me. Everything else was peripheral. It was there and it was good, but you know, one of the freedoms I had was I never thought I was good enough, so I didn't care, in a sense, and that was very liberating, because when you don't have that pressure of having to be great or impressing somebody or having to sound like somebody in order to be accepted, there's this space that opens up for you to just be free to do whatever is exciting and interesting to you. And that's the one thing that I've always followed. What is exciting and interesting? And that never goes away. It never has gone away. To this day, that's what I do. I think, what is exciting and interesting to me? And then I throw myself into it. And this might be a good question for you to ask yourself. And there's no wrong answer, you know. There can be confusing answers in your head, you know, because there's so much, you know, there's so much, there can be what seems to be so much pressure from the outside world to conform. I mean, we're being brainwashed every minute of every day, every time you turn on the TV, every time you listen to the radio, every time you see an ad or a billboard, or even every time you hear anybody say anything. It's usually a conditioning. And we become conditioned to feel as though we need to fit in a particular way. And this can really restrict your unique creativity. Some people have no choice. They just are uniquely creative because they just don't know anything else. And that's good for them. And it's good for us that it's good for them. But for you, that's the question. What is the exciting thing for you? And when you ask yourself that question, you may hear your mind give you a lot of answers. And those answers might be reflective of what is acceptable today, you know, what was acceptable yesterday and how you can use it today to be successful. You know, all these things can bombard your mind. The thing that there's these two levels that go on within us. One of them is confidence, and one of them is fear. And sometimes the level of fear is higher than the level of confidence. And when that happens, and fear can turn into so many different things when the little voice starts speaking, like, you're not good enough for this, you're going to be judged, this isn't what everybody else is doing, you don't have time for this, it's too much work. You know, all these things, when you boil them down to at least the lowest common denominator, it's really just fear. And it's the ego. So this level of fear can actually choke your ability to find the unique thing that's interesting and exciting to you. Now, what happens if you can sort of identify with these excuses that you make in your head and these little voices of insecurity and fear, that's big. That's really big. If you can separate yourself and be an observer of your own thoughts, so to speak. Oh, I see that I'm thinking this, I'm confused because this is what this guy is doing, and this is what's accepted, and how do I fit in? I see that I'm thinking these things that are really just thoughts. They're just illusionary thoughts. They don't matter really. I mean, they matter to a degree, but they matter relatively. They're not of absolute importance. Of absolute importance is what it is that resonates with you on a deep level, a deep creative level that excites you. And I'm not talking about the ego gratification of just being rich and famous. Most people who are rich and famous, it happened as a consequence to them finding their own voice. And of course, it's across the board. It's not the same case for everybody. There's so many guitar players or musicians that get into bands that are very contemporary kinds of trendy, genre-specific bands, and they love it, and they play very conventional, trendy music, and they sell millions of records. That's all fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's what you like. But being a musician for your whole life takes... It's not even a commitment. To say it's a commitment means that it's something you have to work towards. Musicians don't work towards it. They just are it. They are it for their whole life without any excuses. You know, it's like somebody who's an inspired chef or an inspired architect or anybody that has found their note. They are, you know, they find their juice in that for their whole life. So if you're questioning whether you want to be a musician for your whole life, my advice is don't. Because musicians don't question whether they want to be musicians or not. They just are, and that's all there is to it. Does that mean you shouldn't play the guitar? No, you should play the guitar for your whole life. I strongly recommend. But do it with joy and freedom from these self-imposed mind structural prison cell that you put yourself in. You know, enjoy it without any pressure, without any, you know, then it's really a beautiful thing. But you have to be able to identify when you're stressing out over it and see, the moment you see that your mind is stressing on something about your career, the miracle is it starts to dissolve. The stress actually dissolves a bit. So then, how do you find your own unique voice, you know? You can only find it when you create a space for it to speak through you. And that space is all mental. You have to stop the mind from all of these voices of insecurity and all these things that come up that question you. And it's like a meditation in a sense, you know. And it's a beautiful thing to do, and it's free, and you can do it right now. And what that is just sitting and just not thinking, clearing your mind, and just being very present in the moment. And if you notice, any stress that comes in is a result of the mind coming in and thinking about something from either the past and projecting it into the future. You think about what's been on, what's going on, what you do have, what you don't have in your life, what happened, what's going to happen. These are all just thoughts. They're relative. You know, the only thing that's really absolute is right now. So if you can bring yourself into that quiet space and not try to think about what it is you want, it's very interesting what can happen, and it might not happen right away. It might take a little practice, this little meditation of just being quiet and just allowing, and then you'll find certain things that excite you. And some people, they already know. You know, they already know what's really exciting for them, what they really want to do. And they may find themselves not doing that because of the mind noise. You know, they really want to be, maybe they really want to play jazz. Maybe you really like jazz and you like playing, you want to play like Joe Pass or something like that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with that if all day you're grinding away in a metal band and you're not really enjoying it because you want to play jazz, you know. But you feel like you have to play metal to be successful, you know. And which, you know, the word success in itself, I try not to use it so much because it's so, there's a lot of baggage attached to it. You know, success, what does it mean? You know, you have to be specific. There's different kinds of success. There's success in the eyes of the world, and there's success by finding your own peace. You know, that's might be more valued, because most of the time, people who strive after worldly success are trying to find themselves, and when they get there, it's not uncommon that they discover that this maybe for a little while, you know, but then if they're stuck in mind patterns, which are really ego, eventually they'll be miserable again. So success is kind of an elusive word. I would use it in this sense right now. Success is when you can find the thing in you that's really exciting to you. You look for the feeling of enthusiasm. Okay, it's very identifiable. You can discern the difference between enthusiasm and most other kinds of emotions. Well, most emotions have their own little identification. But what you look for when you're thinking about what you want to do, how you want to develop, you just look for that feeling of enthusiasm. And once you feel it, you got to grab onto it and see where it takes you. You want to cultivate that feeling into this overwhelming feeling of excitement and joy. And then nothing can stop you. There's nothing in the universe that can stop you. As a matter of fact, the universe works with you to bring these things into your life that will fulfill that feeling. Because whatever it is you're feeling, that's what goes out and that's what attracts like-minded things, you know? It's not even, this isn't even a concept or a theory or my idea. It's just the law of the universe, you know, and it's not me who's really giving you something to think about. This is like a common understanding. Whatever you're feeling, created by the thoughts in your head, which you have control over if you can identify with them, whatever you're feeling goes out, and then you see, you just are attracted to things based on what you're feeling. So when you can find, and I'll bring this, this is applicable to anything in life, but since I've got a guitar, and at this particular time I'm Steve Vai, I'm talking about finding a unique voice on the instrument. And it's a great practice, and it's really exciting, because when you find that thing that's really creates that enthusiasm, it makes every day like Christmas. And what you'll notice can happen once you start cultivating these, maybe these sounds, you know, it will start reflecting in your life as visual images or things that just happen with your fingers, and then sounds that you gravitate, oh, that's exciting me, you know, whatever it is. And you'll be, what you're looking for is your own inner ear, you know. And then it's not uncommon for all of a sudden a little voice to come in and say to you, that's not good enough, you're not good enough, that's not what everybody else is doing. Okay, so this is what separates the men from the mice, so to speak. Or I should say, this is what separates the terminology of success from failure that I'm referring to. Not the worldly success that the world sees as success, but your own personal feeling of completeness. So when you can identify with those voices that might be discarding or foo-fooing this very beautiful, enthusiastic thing that you're following, you need to ignore them. You need to identify with the fact that those are relative thoughts. Some of them might even have shades of truth to them, but they're relative. They will come and go, and they will change. Of absolute value is your own personal excitement and discovery on the instrument. Now, some people, there's so many different kinds of interests that people have when it comes to an instrument, or anything in general, and especially with the guitar. I mean, some people are interested in playing acoustic guitars, and then there's all the different styles, and some people want to play blues. Some people are really moved by blues, you know, and that's great. If that's the thing that really excites you, like if you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan or whatever, Jimi Hendrix or Joe Pass, right? And if that's the thing that you find real excitement. I want to play like that. That's great. There's nothing wrong with playing and sounding like Stevie Ray Vaughan. If that's what you never will. You'll never quite sound like him. You'll never quite sound like anybody, really. As a matter of fact, I've heard many guitar players try to play like Jimi Hendrix. But I can tell you that I've never heard anybody hit even one note that really sounds like Jimi Hendrix, or Jimmy Page, or Jeff Beck, or, you know, there's an energy that comes from the person that goes into the note, and you cannot really pantomime that. So fine, find your own, put your own energy into it. Even if it's the blues like Stevie Ray, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And then the mind might come in and say, well, no, you have to be unique. You have to be totally unique. You have to not sound like this guy or that guy. Well, that's relative. Of absolute value is that you're finding your note, that you're enjoying and finding fulfillment without mental noise in what you're doing. And then this remarkable thing happens. You get comfortable living in that space, and it develops confidence. And what happens when you start to develop confidence is that scale of fear starts to go down and the confidence goes up. And once there's the sweet spot where the desire to follow your inner voice of creativity, your own unique creativity, and it's there. I can tell you that 100%. It's there in everybody. We wouldn't be alive if it wasn't there. Once that eclipses the fear, it's like a rocket. You take off like a rocket. And now, what does that mean, take off like a rocket? What it means is that you get to experience that enthusiasm. You get to live it. You get to fulfill your excitement level. Anything that humans do, in essence, is expanding the universe. And it's beautiful, you know. So when you can find this sense of unique creativity, that's the thing you're going to be most successful at. Because usually what happens, inspiration is inspiring to others. And when you find unique inspiration and you express it, other people feel that, because all the work that you do, whether it's a song, whether it's a solo, whether it's whatever it is, it carries with it the fragrance of your inner intention. You know, so if your inner intention was to was just to pantomime somebody else, then chances are your work is going to carry that. But if your inner intention comes from a place of unique creativity, your work is going to carry that too. And when people hear it and experience it, they feel that energy in your work. Now, whether it's going to make you successful in the eyes of the world or not, that's unknown, but it's relative. If you notice, anybody that's ever created anything that's fresh and new and unique, it's come from a place that is accessible to all of us if you can clear a space for it. And usually those are the things that becomes successful in the eyes of the world because they're so effective, you know. So I would leave you with that don't worry, let the success of the world come to you. And the way that happens is by you finding great value and enthusiasm in what you're doing. And another thing that I would recommend being very aware of is your attitude and your perspective on things, because that shapes your reality and that shapes your experience. So once again, to all you Brotherhood of the Guitar guys, congratulations. I feel you, and good luck. And remember that the guitar is a great friend and a great tool of expression for the rest of your life. Enjoy it.